Welcome back to the Explanation Pro. Today I'll recap an action crime film called Bronson. Spoilers incoming. The movie begins with Michael Peterson, who is standing in the middle of the stage, as a comedian, facing lots of people who are his supportive audience, and he is talking about who he is. Charles Bronson, his fighting name. He likes to be famous, he wants to be known by many people, and yes, he did, Britain's most popular prisoner. A funny guy with a serious, poker face. Michael is locked inside a prison cell, full of blood, waiting for policemen to fight with. Despite the injuries that he has, he starts talking about his childhood. He came from a decent family, parents who raised him as an only child. He had a great childhood. But as Michael grows up, he always finds himself in trouble, in school, with schoolmates and teachers. One day, his teacher went with him as he went to his house after a fight in school. His mother opened the door for them, and she immediately closed it when Michael went inside, leaving the concerned teacher outside. When Michael got a little older, he started his first job as a potato man. He peels potatoes, but still, he's having a hard time trying to resist his temper. He also steals money from the counter because he is making moves with the lady, and flirting with her. In 1974, Michael and his family were living in the suburbs of England. There were only a few opportunities left for him, an ordinary English man. He lives with his wife and his son, and also, he is working as a carpenter, but it's not enough to feed his young family. That's when he decides to rob a post office and get only a little money. The judge gives him 7 years in prison, yet his loving mother says only 4 years. Unlike any other prisoner, Michael enjoys his time in prison. He doesn't see it as a room for bad people. He treats it like a hotel, his hotel room. People give him food, he has his bed, his toilet, and sink, and he can practice his skills. He likes being on his own, that's why he just keeps on having trouble with guards and other prisoners. Until one day, the prison decides to get Michael into their recreational program, sewing. It is easy to do it, yet the hard-headed, stone-hearted Michael refused to do it. And guess, except what it is expected, Michael got into trouble again. He fights with a guard, they get him and put him in a cellar. As Michael gets into trouble from one day to another, like being in a rage, and easily getting furious with little things, he ends up transferring from one hotel room to another hotel room. There are times that it is small, big, with windows, without one, with sink and toilet, or doesn't have one either, with bed, or you're just going to sleep on the floor. It is tough for Michael because he grows so much emotional attachment with every hotel room that he stays in until guards can't fathom his bravery and toughness. He is put in solitary confinement. The room where people with crazy imaginations and out-of-this-world credentials belongs in, a funny farm with funny people. Whether they like to swipe their poop to their faces, or have their world, and play with their minds, that is a funny farm. Michael gets into trouble one day, which is expected from him, the reason why he needs to have medicine. Lots of nurses try to hold him, just to inject something that will drag his flying mind. He gets sick of it, the place, and the medicine. As he cries for being insane, a good friend comes to him, saying what the real problem is. It's him, the great Charles Bronson himself. As tears still go down from Michael's eyes, his friends on the funny farm start to dance, in a disco, inside the farm, but unfortunately, Michael seems to not enjoy it. The day after that, his good friend Paul is always there for him, near him to be exact. But it seems that Michael doesn't like his presence at all, and while the classical music is playing, sitting and chilling down with his homies. Michael transforms to Charles Bronson again, holding a piece of clothing in his hands. He stands up and goes to Paul's back, starting to strangle him as it leads to his death. As it happens, guards try to stop Michael, but it's too late. That's when they decide to pull him out again and transfer him to another hotel room, Broadmoor Asylum, wherein he spends a lot of his time. He is supposed to only have 7 years in prison, but it takes him 26 years already. As he welcomes his new home, he's sick of being in it, that's why he decides to burn it. It costs a lot of damage that almost sums up to thousands of pounds. Her Majesty, the Queen, decides to let him go and certifies him as a sane person. A new day for Michael Peterson. His parents were outside waiting for him as he went out of prison after 26 long years. Trying to adjust to his life as a free man, he goes home with his parents' house and is a little bit confused about how it's built. He finds himself finding his old things when he was still a kid, like his bed when he's quite a little older than what he is right now. Though he is sad about what he finds out, he decides to go to Luton, where his hometown is, and where his favorite Uncle Jack lives. Uncle Jack knows everyone wherever he is. He likes to drink, That's why he owns a bar. Lots of girls and drinks everywhere. There he met Paul Daniels, a friend of Uncle who sees his potential in fighting. His rage will go somewhere. As he picks a lot of names that he will be using, he picks Charles Bronson. The name that will be known until today. He starts fighting underground. His first opponent is quite an old man. Like the old Michael, he gives punches straight into the face, and he never stops punching until he sees lots of blood or his opponent is almost dead. He seems to enjoy it because it's his forte, his skill, his love of doing since he was a kid, until he wins, and Michael, as clever as he is, pulls his pants off and starts peeing on the opponent's face as he lays down on the ground. He only receives 20 quid after a good fight, because his manager, Paul, is not quite happy with what he did. He peed. Michael is upset, but Paul tries to explain that it is not good to see something like that again. Henceforth of Michael's behavior, he fell in love with Allison, one of the girls of Uncle Jack. They start to hang out and eventually make love, and for the very first time, Charles Bronson, the strong, outrageous, masculine man says, "I love you." Unfortunately, Allison rejects his love. There his heart breaks apart. Michael still has feelings after all, though Allison loves Brian, her boyfriend. A quick-witted Michael comes up with an idea. He stands up and leaves Allison, and goes to a nearby jewelry store. He asks the salesman how much is the diamond ring that he likes to buy, but seeing him as a pity guy, the salesman says that it's too expensive for him to buy. Michael gets mad again and grabs the man's head and pounds it to the glass. The salesman faints. There is another problem along Michael's journey of getting the jewelry. A saleswoman who gets out from the office and tries to figure out what is happening. Charles Bronson is getting out of Michael Peterson's body. He shouts to the saleswoman, and fear is covering her up. Fortunately, Charles didn't do anything to the saleswoman, except he advised that she should call the police after 15 minutes. He says, "Merry Christmas," to the saleswoman before he leaves the store with the ring in his pocket. He heads home and Allison is still there. He pops out the ring and she accepts it, but tears start to fall through Allison's eyes as she rejects Michael's proposal, because she and Brian are getting married. A broken-hearted Michael leaves the door open and police start to grab him out of the house since the saleswoman earlier follows his advice to call the police after 15 minutes, but it didn't take 15 minutes for police to find him. There he is. Charles Bronson is back at his home, his hotel room. It only takes 69 days for him to be a free man and go back to prison, but mostly in solitary confinement. The governor is upset about what has happened to him outside. Michael seems to get depressed by the brokenness of his heart, but he immediately copes up with it by reading books, and one day, when a librarian is sending him the books that he requested, Michael closes the door and takes the librarian as his hostage. The afraid man is just following Michael. They start conversing about his family, finding out that he is a family man, with a wife and 2 kids. The governor is alarmed and tries to contact Michael as soon as possible. They talk over the phone and negotiate what he wants for him to be able to release the feared librarian. And Charles Bronson is coming out of him again. He stands up and starts to unclothe himself. Librarian thought that Charles is going to hurt him, but to his surprise, Charles grabs the butter and put it all over his body. He asks the librarian to help him put butter on his back, and the war with guards starts. As they open the door, the outrageous Bronson welcomes them and fight, but because of the butter all over his body, they find it hard to stop him. But because of their numbers, they outnumber Charles Bronson and grab him outside the prison cell. Henceforth, the librarian goes out easily. Charles Bronson has been beaten all over again because of his new behavior, hostaging. The governor asks him what he's up to, his plans, and what are the things that he likes to do in the future. And of course, the mad Charles ignores him, and that's why he is back in solitary confinement again. The hotel room, in an extreme version level. Michael is doing great as days pass by because his attention draws into something that will bring the best out of him, making art. He likes to draw and imagine things, and one day during his time in the art room, Phil Danielson, a prison teacher, is impressed by Michael's skills. He helps him to develop it and encourages him to think out of the box, draw something that is not inside the prison. His imagination grows wilder and truly out of this world. He goes to the governor alongside Phil, who encourages him to paint, and as Michael is holding a paper, they approach the governor and they converse about his new passion for art. The governor is still thinking about his request for more art materials to go inside the prison, because of Michael's behavior for the past few weeks inside. He rejects his painting and tells him that he will only look for it later. Michael Peterson is breaking apart again. feels rejected for the second time, and is truly upset by what had happened. Before Phil leaves, Phil gives the painting to Weber, the governor's assistant. They go back to the art room and Phil is trying to cheer up Michael's broken heart. But broken as he is, he starts to be outrageous again and starts to do the unthinkable, for the second time. He grabs Phil's head and knocks it out to the ground. Phil abruptly faints and he is almost dead. Michael is hostaging him. He grabs Phil again and ties him into a post of the art room. The governor is trying to convince him and negotiating about what he needs this time. Charles Bronson only says, "Music. Music is what he needs." The governor and guards thought that he is joking, but he isn't. That's when they start to play some classical music at the foyer of the art room. He starts to like it while he is painting Phil's face, starting as an art piece, putting a whole green apple in his mouth and coloring his eyelid with the pattern of the pair of eyes itself. He is immensely enjoying doing this for minutes turns to hours until he gets bored out of it. He paints himself black, all over his body, imagining a lot of things as time is passing by. He calls the guards in to take Phil and they go in immediately. Charles Bronson gives up and turns himself in with them without any hesitations. The guards can save Phil and grab Bronson out of the art room. After the chaos that he caused, he is put inside a tight prison box, with chains in his body, full of blood by the beat of policemen who are all annoyed by his actions. The movie ends with Charles Bronson saying goodbye to the audience, his audience, with a long laugh exchanged by his long silence. While in reality, Charles is inside the prison box cell while in a big dark room. And the guard is slowly closing the door, which means his story ends there. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and also subscribe my channel for more videos like this. See you in the next video.